Doctor. In the TARDIS. Next stop, everywhere.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the TARDIS, ready to talk some more classic Doctor Who with my wonderful co-host, wonderful friend, and just delightful partner in time, Jesse Jackson. How you doing, Jesse?
I am good. You know, we're here to talk about the real thing.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to buy the world a Coke and talk about the Sixth Doctor.
Yes. As I'm drinking my Coke right now, as try to break up some of the crud that's in my lungs because, hey, Symbicort is the worst. But you guys don't care about that. But hopefully you do care about that. Here at episode 217, we're going to be talking The Mysterious Planet, a.k.a. parts 1 through 4 of The Trial of a Time Lord, which was a 14-part serial that essentially serves as Colin Baker's last season as the Sixth Doctor, sadly, his second and final season. And this was written by Robert Holmes, who wrote some great episodes. He wrote Spearhead from Space, Pyramids of Mars, Brain of Morbius, The Deadly Assassin, Caves of Androzani, The Two Doctors, and more. And joining us, thankfully, for this wonderful 4-part event, as we're going to go through the entire Trial of a Time Lord season, see all of season 23 from the classic era. Joining us from the Five-ish Fangirls podcast and Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast. Please, everyone, welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, Rachel Frend.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Rachel. How are you doing?
I am good.
It's been so long since I've talked to you, like a whole 2 days.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Oh, it's been so long.
So thank you so much for coming back on. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure Jesse does too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well,
looking forward
all
to
you
it.
got to do all you got to do is say Sixth Doctor, and I'm like, I'm there.
Are those the magic words that just make Rachel appear?
Yep.
Sixth Doctor. Ba-ding!
Do you have to say them 3 times, like Sixth Doctor, Sixth Doctor, Sixth Doctor?
Yeah. Or carrot juice. That works too.
Nice. Nicely done. See, this is one of the reasons I was very glad to have Rachel aboard, because she is our resident Sixth Doctor aficionado. You know, I love all the Doctors, so I love Colin Baker as well, but I think Rachel has a special place in her heart for a certain Colin Baker.
I do.
Rachel, I know you've been on before when you were wonderful to come on and talk Vengeance of Varos with us, with me. I don't think Jesse was there for that one, if I recall correctly.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I think it was just you and I. So would you mind reminding everybody why you love the Sixth Doctor so much?
You know, I just had someone else ask me this question, and I struggled then, and I still struggle now. It's just
we should have the answer by now, then.
It's just one of those things where it's like, you know, why do people love chocolate, or, you know, why do people love cats, or, you know, why do, you know,
it just happens.
Why do people love fishing? It's just, you know, it's just one of those things that, you know, you come across something in your life and it just kind of hits you in a spot that you're like, I love this and I want this to be part of my existence for now and all of eternity.
kind of like Jesse with Bruce Springsteen, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, maybe.
Absolutely.
So
Jesse, since I gather you had talked to Rachel before on Gold Standard when you guys talked Casablanca, so you are familiar with each other.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. So I'm excited to talk about this. I love that you love Colin Baker. You know, I was lucky enough to interview him several years ago, and he shared that he loves carrot juice but he can't stand the sugar babies.
Jelly
Yeah.
babies.
The jelly
Yeah,
babies.
jelly
He
babies.
cannot stand the
Really?
taste of them.
Yeah.
Yes, but he loves carrot juice. So
Maybe he
it was no
just
big
doesn't
deal
like
to him
sweets, but I
Yeah.
have a hard time thinking that, but I don't know.
Mhm.
All right. Well, to each their own. That's cool. That's
Yes.
cool. I like carrots, but I just don't like them in juice form.
Right.
I like them in crunchy stick form because that's me.
Yes. Right.
So, like I said, we're talking the Mysterious Planet. Now, the interesting thing about season 23 is essentially it's 4 stories, but it's linked through a trial framing sequence where the 6th Doctor is put on trial. So the Doctor, this is the second time he's put on trial, the first time being the War Games, being the last story of Patrick Troughton's era back in 1969. And interestingly enough, this trial is also a metaphor for the show being on trial because of, let's just face it, John Nathan Turner's mishandling of the series, ratings going down, the budgets being cut, and Michael Grade, the BBC controller at the time, not being a fan of the show.
Yeah.
So there's a lot in play here. So consequently, they decided they were going to originally, and I'm going to talk about this in a little bit of trivia, but they were going to originally do a different season 23, but this was after like an 18-month hiatus, and this is what they came up with after that. I'm guessing, Rachel, this Trial of the Time Lord is obviously one of the, I would say, the highlights of the Colin Baker era.
Mm-hmm.
Because of its importance, and also because the Doctor's put on trial, we're introduced to the Valeyard, we get the departure of Peri, which we'll talk about next time, and we can later get the introduction of Mel, Peri's replacement. So there's a lot going on here. And sadly, with being Colin Baker's final season, we didn't get a regeneration, which is something we'll talk about when we talk about The Ultimate Foe.
Yep.
But I have to think, this holds some pretty special memories for you.
Yeah, it does. The trial is, it's infamous and kind of legendary for a number of reasons that we'll get into over the next several episodes.
Right.
And the fact that this was they'd been on this hiatus where they weren't sure if the show was even going to come back, and what they had planned for season 23 got shelved essentially, and some of those stories have since been made into Big Finish.
Yeah, I bought them all because I had to know what happened.
Yeah,
the original season 23. Yeah, I had to know that.
Yeah, but it's interesting because it almost seems like they almost were like, well, we've got kind of one last shot here to maybe up the ratings and keep this show going. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, you've got multiple chefs in the kitchen and they're all wanting different things. You've got, John Nathan Turner doing his thing and, the script writers doing other things. And, some people are like, no, it's too violent. It needs to be funnier. And then they try to inject some humor in it with the Doctor, coming up with all these insults for the Valeyard and some other comedic elements. And it's like, no, this isn't, this funny's terrible.
Yeah, exactly. Because other BBC suits, they didn't like the humor. So it's like there wasn't a consistent message about what the show should have become.
Yeah.
So Jesse, what about you? You had mentioned that you'd watched this before, but it had been a while.
Yeah.
So I want to get your thoughts on this rewatch.
So, by far the best part is the trial. I think the actual story is a pretty paint by numbers Doctor Who episode.
Right.
So by far the interesting thing is the trial and also the behind the scenes, it's never good when you are acting to save your job, right? Like,
right.
And it is versus, okay, screw it. We're going to do the best show we can. If we get canceled, we get canceled, right? This was, okay, well, if I can make my bosses happy, and all of us have had jobs where, or I think most of us, where you get told 2 or 3 different things, and like every time I remember there was a point where every time I got a new boss, they changed what my primary duty was supposed to be, and they were always different. You're like, okay, just make up your mind.
Yeah.
So I really feel for Peri, and the doctor in these situations, because like, okay, just give me the rules and we'll do it, and they weren't there.
Yeah. So obviously the stars Colin Baker as the Sixth Doctor, Nicola Bryant as Peri Brown, and Michael Jayston we get introduced to as the Valeyard, or the Brickyard, the Stackyard, the Knacker's Yard, take your pick.
Yep.
And he returned, thankfully, as the Valeyard in a Sixth Doctor Big Finish audio, Trial of Valeyard. And he also returned for The Last Adventure, which was a set of 4 stories that essentially wrapped up Colin Baker's run as the Sixth Doctor, continuity-wise. He's still doing Big Finish audios as the Sixth Doctor, thankfully. But these, as far as the Sixth Doctor's continuity is concerned, these are the last 4. And especially The Brink of Death, which we've talked about on this show, giving him a much better exit than carrot juice, carrot juice, carrot juice. I'm going to hit my head on the TARDIS console.
And Sylvester McCoy is going to wear a wig.
Exactly. Yes.
Yep.
So the less said about that, the better, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But he also appeared in an Eighth Doctor Big Finish audio recently, the War Valeyard, which was part of the Time War sets that is currently being featured by Big Finish. Linda Bellingham is introduced as the Inquisitor, and if you're wondering, yes, she actually does have a Gallifrey name, which was given to her by Big Finish. It's Darkella Trequista Hastrid, which is a bit of a mouthful, but it's very much in the same vein as Romana Devora Trelander.
Mm-hmm.
Romana's full name. Linda Bellingham had reprised the Inquisitor for the Gallifrey series that's being produced by Big Finish Audios. So she had also done a lot of those audios, which featured Lalla Ward as Romana and Louise Jameson as Leela in those, set on Gallifrey. So essentially it's kind of like the show about the Time Lords themselves, about Time Lord society. Mm-hmm. But she had also appeared in Trial of the Valeyard as well. So it's kind of neat. That's an audio that I did pick up that I really adore, because not only do you get the Sixth Doctor, you get the return of the Valeyard and the Inquisitor in that one. I highly recommend picking that one up. It's really good. I really enjoyed it. But she also appeared, if you're a fan of the 2007 Robin Hood series, the one that was aired a while back, obviously 15 years now, or close to it, on BBC America. So it's been a while. But I had a good, fond memories of that show. She was in that. We get the introduction of Tony Selby as Sabalom Glitz, who we talked about not too long ago when we discussed Dragonfire here on Next Stop Everywhere. But this is his first appearance. And then he turns up later in this season in the final story, Colin Baker's final televised story, The Ultimate Foe. So we'll meet Glitz again here in a few episodes here on Next Stop Everywhere. Now this is his introduction, along with his sidekick Dibber. And I had mentioned when we talked about Dragonfire that Tony Selby, interestingly enough, appeared in the 1978 Superman film as the Hood and I remember talking about this, Jesse, that he's the Hood that's on the boat post a robbery, where a bunch of bank robbers, they go out to the docks and they get on this boat, hoping to sail to freedom, and Superman shows up and stops them. Well, he's the Hood that sits there counting the money. So if you're looking for Sabalom Glitz in Superman the movie, that's where he is.
Very nice.
Little Easter egg for everybody. We had Joan Sims as Queen Patricia, Glenn Murphy as Dibber, who had also previously appeared in the Peter Davison story Kinda as a Kinda tribesman, and he's in the movie Quadrophenia, which, if you've ever seen that, is a very interesting film, starring a lot of rock stars like The Who and Sting and all that. Tom Chadbun plays Merdine, and if you're a Tom Baker fan, you might recognize him as Dugan, Detective Dugan in City of Death. One of my all-time favorite stories because, hey, it was written by Douglas Adams, so I never overlook the chance to mention Douglas Adams, obviously. He also played a character named Embury in the Fourth Doctor of Big Finish audio, The Paradox Planet, and also its follow-up, Legacy of Death. And he played the character Gordon Davidson in the 8th Doctor Big Finish Audio No More Lies. And interestingly enough, he was also in the 2006 Casino Royale that starred Daniel Craig. And he was the High Septon Maynard on Game of Thrones, who appeared in the final episode. So that's kind of cool, right? Adam Blackwood played Balazar, and Roger Brierley played Drathro, at least the voice of Drathro. And he had previously appeared way, way back in a William Hartnell story, The Daleks' Master Plan, the previously longest-running Doctor Who story, as a character named Trevor, and he's also in Superman 2 as one of the French terrorists, if you remember that from the beginning of the movie. So that's our cast for this one. Trivia, and Rachel had mentioned some already, but in February 1985, the BBC announced that the original plans for season 23 of Doctor Who had been canceled. But after vocal protests by both the press and Doctor Who fans, which included a horrible, horrible charity single known as Doctor in Distress.
That's an earworm if you ever get it in your head.
Basically, it was like the Doctor Who attempt at We Are the World, but not done nearly as well. Like, you had a bunch of British Doctor Who actors and a couple of British celebrities kind of doing a We Are the World type song. It wasn't even, I think it was for charity as well. They did donate the proceeds to charity, if I recall correctly. But essentially, it was a vehicle for trying to raise awareness of getting Doctor Who back on the air, because they didn't like that the show was put on an 18-month hiatus.
Yeah.
And they wanted the Doctor back now, according to the lyrics. So it's a horrible song, but if you ever get curious about it, it's out there on YouTube. Trust me.
Yeah.
You can find it.
Nowadays, you just you start a change.org petition.
Right. But obviously, this is way, way before the internet. So
yes.
So they originally planned several stories. Like Rachel said, they eventually were adapted by Big Finish Audio. So they took what they could find of the original scripts and whatnot, and kind of built an audio version of the originally planned season 23, if you ever want to check that out. So they got rid of that in favor of this overarching trial theme, reflecting, of course, like I said, that the program itself was basically on trial by the BBC. And while listed as a single story, this story, The Mysterious Planet, and 3 others make one long story, like I talked about, 14 parts. So technically it's the longest running Doctor Who story ever. But I consider it to be 4 stories more than I do a 14-parter. I don't know about you, Rachel, but that's how I view it.
I mean, it's 6 1/2 dozen the other, I think. Because,
right.
I mean, you could kind of look at something like the Key to Time series.
Yeah.
Where you've got this larger overall plot.
Right.
But these various adventures that help move that larger plot along.
But everybody considers those 6 stories, so I don't know why they don't do that for this as well. Maybe it's because the graphics had Trial of the Time Lord Part 14.
Probably, just the way they numbered it.
Yeah.
And that is how they're, that is the titles on BritBox and everything. Like I had to go like, okay, is it, where do I stop watching this? And I was like, okay, 4, it's pretty clear, that it's the end of kind of the first chapter. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, essentially it goes 4, 4, 2. Or excuse me, 4, 4, 4, 2.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So like 3 4s, then a 2.
Okay.
So pretty simple. From this serial onward, all location work gets recorded on what's known as outside broadcast, OB tape, instead of the usual 16 millimeter film. So this is where they switch from film to videotape, and it obviously shows.
Mm-hmm.
If you've seen, previous, like we just talked Resurrection of the Daleks, and you can kind of tell the film quality versus the videotape quality from this point onward. And this was something that actually, I guess everything in this episode, everything in the story, except for the opening sequence, which we'll talk about, that big CGI effect where the TARDIS spirals down into this like tractor beam that draws it into the space station. But everything else from this point on is videotape, and it shows, in my opinion. The only footage, let's see, the BBC apparently had been encouraging the use of videotape because apparently they think, they've thought at the time at least, that it was cheaper and they can mix it with the studio shot material better. So essentially it's like, well, it's the BBC cost-cutting maneuver here.
Mm-hmm.
And like, again, I think it shows. John Nathan Turner, being John Nathan Turner, wanted to switch to videotape as early as Peter Davison's first season in 1982, but surprise to no one, he met with resistance from the directors working on that show and was outvoted. So, thankfully, and as a Davison fan, I'm like hugely grateful that didn't happen because I think it really would have affected his run, looking a little, less polished. Roger Brierley, who, like I said, voiced Drathro, the robot, in this one, he was originally supposed to wear that robot costume. But he couldn't because, well, he's 6'4", and he couldn't fit into it. So they had to put another guy in there and have him voice it as a result. So they got like a special effects assistant to physically play the character. So I thought that was kind of interesting that he's like, they built this thing for this guy, and they didn't bother to take his measurements. Brilliant.
They're not very smart, Charles.
No, they're not. And that's why the show got canceled in 1989. Sad to say. All right, we have 4 topics, lots to talk about. So we'll try and get through this as quickly as possible because I know you all have lives. But so first topic, I want to talk. And hey, let's call it this: Doctor in Distress. So let's talk about the Sixth Doctor, the Valeyard, and the Inquisitor. So these are the trial sequences, the framing sequence that gets that bookends this entire season and also intersperses, as they cut back and forth from the featured story back to the courtroom scenes to try to make it feel like it's one big saga.
Mm-hmm.
So, Rachel, since you're our special guest companion, why don't we start with you first? What were your thoughts about the introduction of the Valeyard and the Inquisitor and these trial framing sequences?
When I first watched this for the first time, I went into it not knowing all of the real world stuff that was going on.
Yeah.
But I had watched the Key to Time. So this whole idea of a whole bunch of stories strung together with a larger plot was not weird to me. Since this is supposed to be some sort of, at first it's supposed to just be an inquisition looking into some of the Doctor's flouncing of the supposed rules for, time travel.
Right.
That
the Doctor Who Prime Directive, if you will.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Put together by the Time Lord up the ups.
Yes. The establishment.
The establishment, which we've known since the very beginning that the Doctor has never been one to fall in line with the establishment.
No. He's as anti-authority as it gets. Yes.
Yeah, the minute he walks in and they're like, try to explain what it is, and he's like, "I'm Lord President of Gallifrey. You cannot put me on trial." Bye. It's like.
And then the Inquisitor
right.
is like, "No, sorry. Since you ran from your duties, started hopping around the galaxy in time and space, you were deposed. And then he's like, oh, never mind.
Yeah. Yeah. But, the doctor is essentially the defendant, and that kind of makes the Valeyard the prosecutor. And, Michael Jayston just sells it as this just, again, seemingly member of the Time Lord uppity-ups.
Aristocracy,
that has just had it with the Doctor and the way the Doctor has essentially lived his lives, and wants nothing more than to have the book, if not the entire library, thrown at him.
Right, exactly.
Of course, as we go on, we'll learn that there's more to it than that, but at first it just seems like, it's somebody that's just fed up that the Doctor's not playing by their rules. Which, as we've seen with other interactions with the Time Lords, that they really do not approve of the Doctor and what the Doctor does, but sometimes they realize that the Doctor's seemingly, free spirit lifestyle, just running off and getting, sometimes getting into trouble and stopping trouble and just adventuring around the universe is a good thing. As we've seen in some previous stories where they're like, do we have to call the Doctor for this? And they're like, yes, because he's our best hope. And they're like, okay.
So do you think there was the Time Lords trying to put, like, essentially make the Doctor an example that you shouldn't rebel against Time Lord society?
I think so. I think so. I think that there was just seemingly people that are just had enough. What, other than the Valeyard's motivation, what other Time Lords, what their particular motivation is, if they just, the Doctor's just known well enough, and the Time Lords are known well enough, as we see when the Doctor meets Glitz, and the Glitz is like, oh yeah, I know who the Time Lords are, so.
I'm sure they're pretty well known in certain circles in the galaxy.
Yeah.
Or in the universe,
Yeah, but they probably are known for being just
dicks.
The keepers of time or whatever.
Yeah.
And the Doctor's a black sheep of the family.
Right. All right, Jesse, how about
the rainbow-colored sheep of the family?
Yeah, pretty much. So, Jesse, how about you? What are your thoughts on the introduction of this court setting and the Valeyard and the Inquisitor versus our hero, the Doctor?
It is fun watching the Doctor be snarky to the establishment, and so that's fun. But none of this makes sense. Like, okay, if it's a trial, why isn't there a defense attorney? Why isn't there opening? Why?
Well, they offered him one. He didn't take it.
I'm just saying.
He's it's been my experience that court-appointed defense attorneys suck. So therefore, I'm going to represent myself.
So I just think there's a lot of things that they don't explain very well, and that it does just feel like you've pissed us off, Doctor, and someone is going after you for just whatever reason, and that just seems a little strange. I'd also think it's very, at the end of the fourth episode, you're left with a cliffhanger, like, and I want to know what's going on with the trial.
Yeah.
So obviously, I stopped watching because that's our purpose. But I think that's my biggest thing is I know there's something more going on here, and I don't think they gave me enough meat on these first 4 episodes of what's going on in the trial. Okay. I would have liked to have seen more.
So you don't think it was enough of a hook for the remaining 3 stories?
enough of a hook because yes, I want to know more.
Okay.
So maybe it is the right amount of hook. It's just for me, I would have liked more meat on the story.
So it was just you wanted to know more, but it wasn't substantive enough. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay,
Yes.
got it.
Yes.
All right, I get it. But what do you think? This is to both of you really. What did you make of like the Inquisitor? Because it seemed like especially right from the start, she's trying to be fair to the Doctor. She's not just unlike the Valeyard, who's obviously got it in for the Doctor for reasons which we will find out. Pretty big way, apparently. But the Inquisitor, she, even though she is part of this aristocracy, this Time Lord society, she's still like treating her job as you would hope that she would treat her job, very fairly, and has no qualms about putting the Valeyard in this place when she feels it's necessary.
Really good question, Charles, because I agree. I think she seems to be a very fair judge,
yes.
Right? That she's wanting to do things right. She answers the Doctor's question. She pushes back sometimes, and I think fairly. Like sometimes, no, Doctor, I think that's out of line, or no, no, sir, Valeyard, that's out of line. So I thought it was nice. Well, one thing I had is it as well known as the Doctor is, I'm surprised he didn't know, her. I mean, he calls her my lady. He's very respectful to her,
right.
But because of the aristocracy, you get the feeling as a very he would know most of them.
Well, it's not like you knew everybody at your high school, right?
Well, no, true.
Yeah.
No, I think so, but yeah.
I mean, I certainly didn't. I mean, I knew a lot of people in my high school, but I didn't know everybody. So, and maybe they just travel in different circles.
But he would know of her, I guess.
By reputation is what you're saying. Well, it has been some time since he was on Gallifrey, so maybe she moved up after he left.
I will go with that answer. That is a perfect answer, Charles.
I just pulled that one out of nowhere, so take that for what you will. But that's just me thinking on the fly. Rachel, how about you? Any thoughts on the Inquisitor or or more on the Valeyard?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Inquisitor, she definitely seems to try to be impartial with this entire thing, because the Valeyard, as we get more and more into it, and the Valeyard seems to get desperate for it to reach what he hopes the end goal is. That she loses control of the entire thing, but I mean, the fact that
it's not really her fault, is it?
Yeah, that's not really her fault. And I mean, I'll play a little bit of devil's advocate here with Jesse, talking about, wanting more setup for the trial and making it seem more like a, quote unquote proper trial. I think that's kind of the point, is I think that the Valeyard, is responsible for this this whole thing, and wants it to be as by the book as possible, probably, like seemingly having, the proper procedures or whatever in place so that the Time Lords would go through it in the first place. But once it's in process, he's like, I'm going to manipulate this thing to get the end result that I want and turn this whole thing essentially into a kangaroo court.
And I guess when I say I'm wanting more is, under what authority are they doing this? Was there a arrest warrant put out for the Doctor? What are the charges?
Right.
Like, is this like a mulk time where any Time Lord can, challenge another Time Lord to defend their, things? I mean, that's my it's not important, but it is like, I want to know, okay, like, why do they think they're, why do they feel? And I get they're Time Lords and they're arrogant and they can do this whatever you want, but it's like, he's been this bad for a long time.
Yeah,
why at this moment?
My personal guess on this, and this is just speculation because we never get the answers that you're asking about there to those questions. But knowing what I know of classic Doctor Who is probably something along the lines of, well, here's this evidence. I'm going to take it to the High Council and the Lord President of Gallifrey, and I'm going to show this to him and say, hey, we want the Doctor put on trial for this. And essentially all it needed was the Lord President giving his official okie dokie, and that put the wheels in motion.
And that makes sense based on what I know, right? That they don't like the Doctor. He's kind of, he is truly, he's a maverick.
He's the notorious renegade kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So about far. I mean, and the Valeyard is the overzealous prosecuting attorney. He's the DA that wants he's going to make his name by, taking this rebel and putting him in his place. So
as far as we know.
Yeah.
Yes.
This far. Yeah. So that's the pieces fit that way very well.
Yeah. All right. Anything else about the Sixth Doctor in the courtroom scenes or the Valeyard of the Inquisitor that we didn't really cover? Because
Valeyard has a very unfortunate hat.
Yes, he does. Now, it's not the worst hat we've seen on Doctor Who by far.
Yeah, as far as Time Lord style
I'm thinking
goes.
of Colin Baker's Maxwell hat in Arc of Infinity with a big plume, but it's it's nice and shiny, and it looks like it would hold water if you got rained on. So like it would just bead right off. So so maybe that's it. Maybe it was just raining. I don't know. But yeah, or maybe it's just one of those ceremonial things because Rassilon knows that Time Lords love ceremonial robes and processes and rituals. So yeah, they love that stuff. So
the knickknacks of Rassilon.
Right. So, and then of course in strolls the Sixth Doctor in his coat of many colors, to paraphrase Dolly Parton, and just to completely go against everything that they stand for. So, because he's a loner dotty, a rebel. But yeah, I like Colin Baker's performance. He does go way over the top, but you almost kind of want him to a little bit because you know what Colin Baker's Sixth Doctor is about by this point. And, so you expect him to be all bombastic and theatrical and, just shouty about everything and outraged. And
several of the features that I love about that Doctor.
Exactly. So this is probably just like popcorn time for Rachel watching Colin Baker in these courtroom scenes. Mm-hmm. Bagging on the Valeyard's name and just trying to he'll put the Valeyard down and then he'll just like a schoolboy that's been caught being in trouble. He'll go to the Inquisitor and go like, pardon me. Madam Inquisitor, I apologize for my outburst, and then just trying to smooth the whole thing over, and then just kind of shoot the Valeyard aside look, all smug and like, yeah, like he totally knew what he was doing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was great. So I just made for a lot of entertainment. Now, before we move on, did anybody find these courtroom scenes intrusive into the featured story, the story set on Ravelox? Or do you think it was pretty evenly handed?
Go ahead, Rachel.
No, I don't think so. I guess there was some courtroom stuff that had been cut because the episode was running along.
Right.
But the grand scheme of things, I don't think it necessarily hurt it per se.
Okay.
Now, what was interesting, Charles, is I'm watching this on my Amazon Fire Stick.
Okay.
Through BritBox. I have a subscription with BritBox, and so every once in a while, you'll have because a download blip, right? Like
okay.
There's a lot of people.
Oh, there's the streaming lag.
Yeah, the streaming lag. So then I get confused. okay, was this a streaming lag or was this a sensor that the Time Lords are doing?
Right.
Like, oh, okay, that was a sensor. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Well, you didn't hear that annoying reet.
yeah. So, well, the first time that happens, I'm going, oh, holy crap! That what's going wrong with my internet? And so, which I have the DVD, so I could have pulled them, but I was like, no, I'm paying $5.99 to BritBox. Let me use this thing.
Okay,
So,
right.
yeah, but that was the only thing.
And because you didn't get as good of a quality, did you?
That's right.
Yeah,
but
so,
I did.
See, I watched it on my spiffy new Blu-ray set of season 23.
That's why you're a fan, Charles. But I agree with that. That didn't bother me at all. I thought it was enough back and forth to remind you that we're seeing this somehow magically being projected in a courtroom.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point that because of those censor moments from the trial, you have to wonder like what's really going on here. Because, everything doesn't seem to be on the up and up, obviously. The Time Lords are hiding something. The question, of course, is what?
And who.
And who.
And this very appropriate with us watching WandaVision.
Mm-hmm.
And glitches, right?
Yeah.
So, yes.
By the way, check out our reviews on the Phantom Zone podcast. No, just kidding.
Yes.
Sort of kidding. All right. So, all right. Anything else before we move on? All right. Topic number 2, let's talk the trail, not trial, the trail of a Time Lord. So this I want to talk about the Sixth Doctor and Peri on Ravalox. So we know, like we was talking about when we were talking trivia, that this is like 18 months after the previous season 22, when we finally got to see the long-awaited return of the Sixth Doctor and Peri. And in the meantime, apparently Peri had grown her hair out quite well. I like it. I like the fuller hair. I don't know about you.
I do too.
Yeah,
I think of all of Peri's looks, this is the best one.
I think
out
so.
of her entire run.
I think so. And and she's wearing like full clothes all of a sudden. She's got like
pants.
She has
very
pants.
Practical clothing.
Yeah, pants and a blazer, and just.
Yeah.
But apparently those pants were made out of like silk or something, so they're not like trousers. They were still very, very thin, and Nicola said that it was still quite cold. Yeah,
not exactly built for traipsing around the ravaged planet of Ravalox or those tunnels for any other reason. But so we pick up, and I think from the start, now you probably notice a little bit more if you watch some of the deleted scenes on this story. But by and large, I think the Sixth Doctor and Peri's relationship has changed from what we know of them. Because, in season 22, they were much more argumentative and combative with one another. And to the point where you wondered why Peri traveled with the Doctor in the TARDIS. Because these two obviously couldn't stand each other. And now here, in this story, when we first introduced them in the story, they leave the TARDIS, and they're kind of like, walking around this misty forest that's being a little bit of rain, so the Doctor's got his umbrella going, and which naturally matches his outfit. And, he's arm in arm with Peri under the umbrella, and they seem to be enjoying each other's company. And so when I first saw this for the very first time way back in the day, I was just like, whoa, that's a noticeable change with these two. So, Jesse, we'll start with you first this time. What was your initial reaction to seeing the Sixth Doctor and Peri in this, now that some time had passed, and the evolution of their relationship?
So I had watched it and was really pleased to see their bantering had been brought down a couple level.
Yeah.
And then I ended up reading that Colin and Nicola had kind of discussed that, okay, since we've been off the air, we're going to assume the Doctor and Peri have been traveling, and so we're going to play this as if we were closer, that we have spent more time together. And I think that was a wise decision as two actors.
I totally agree. I think it definitely helped.
I think so too. And I liked her and his, because I do love I mean, you can be a good companion in any way. I mean, you can be Ace and yes, Professor. You can certainly be Rose and have a big crush on the Doctor. But one of my favorite companions is someone who's just a little bit tweaking the Doctor's nose, right? Like just a little bit.
Okay.
And so I think that's a fun thing back and forth to do. He's showing off a little bit to her. She's kind of ribbing him a little bit. So there's a lovely kind of give and take.
So you like a friendly banter.
Yes, versus grumpiness,
Yeah.
too. And, there's that great scene, like, when he, like the second or third episode, right? I think it was the end of the first, maybe. But where he comes out of the tunnels, she's not here. She's never going to be here. And then he sees everyone running, and this whole familiar with her and not mad at her, just a little bit, just irritated. Like, of course she's not going to do that. So It was just really nice. I like seeing them together.
Yeah. And Rachel, how about you? What did you make of this change in their relationship?
Yeah, I actually read the same comment that Jesse did, that they had decided that it's like, just because we weren't on TV doesn't mean that the Doctor and Peri haven't been out there adventuring, and therefore their relationship has grown.
They almost took advantage of the hiatus to kind of develop their characters a little bit.
Yeah, because both on screen and off, there was a little bit of tension when Colin came in as the Doctor. Not that they disliked each other, but there was some hesitation, kind of nervousness on Nicola Bryant's part, because not only had Colin come in as the new Doctor, but there had also been some changes behind the scenes. So she was kind of the senior person on Doctor Who at the time, and she wasn't sure, how much she should kind of throw that seniority and experience around, considering she was still just the companion. So, she and Colin, it took a little bit for them to warm up to each other just on set together. But obviously with time, that changes. And, any quibbling that the Doctor and Peri have with each other is definitely just scripted and not anything pertaining to actual real life, because those two are peas in a pod,
right?
Just like Sylvester and Sophie.
Yeah, I think that's a great comparison.
Yeah, but yeah, it is kind of nice to see them, seemingly to enjoy each other's company more. Although she's still, Peri. God love Nicola Bryant. I love her. She's a sweetheart. Peri's not one of my favorite companions.
Right.
She's just, for someone who's supposed to be college educated, this American botany student, she comes off as a little dumb sometimes, especially
innocent,
innocent, and maybe just like not paying attention to what's going on. Where she's like, there's more often than I care that there are times during her run where she's like, I don't understand, Doctor, what is going on? I'm like, Peri, just take a second, look around, take in what's going on, listen to what the Doctor's saying, and you will get it.
Yeah. Well, let's be fair. That's how she was written. Because I'm sure, other writers might have written her a little better. But the impression I get from Peri is I think she came from, like a pampered upbringing. She almost comes off a lot of times as a little bit spoiled.
Yeah.
And unappreciative. So, the doctor's curious about, like, I got to find out what's going on with Ravalox here, because it looks like, something big happened here, and I want to find out what's going on. And Peri's just like, can we go back to the TARDIS now?
Yeah. Yeah, she's a bit of a stick in the mud sometimes.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, she does get upset something I thought
Yes.
I want to get everybody's thoughts on this, because once they find out that they find the Marble Arch sign, and that the sign to one of those underground tube stations in London that has survived, whatever, and they realize that this is Earth, and that something devastating has happened to the planet. Peri is understandably upset by this. She's trying to convey this to the Doctor, like he's saying, well, this isn't your time. You're as far as you're concerned, your Earth still exists. But she counters, well, this is still my world, and why don't you get that? So I think Peri can be clueless a little bit at times, but so can the Doctor.
Yeah.
And it'd be very insensitive, especially this Doctor, to what Peri's feeling at the moment.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think some of that comes from the fact that just the Doctor doesn't really have probably what he considers a home other than the TARDIS.
Right.
Yeah, there's the second Doctor. He's like, oh, it's the TARDIS. It's my home. Because he has run away from Gallifreyan society and really wants nothing to do with them. He's essentially alienated himself from his own home planet and probably doesn't feel the emotional connection to it like Peri does to Earth. So he can't necessarily be sympathetic to what she's feeling and trying to convey to him, and he does have those words, that he says to her about, things coalesce and stars burn out and, all these things. But it's like, Doctor, just because you don't care for your home doesn't mean other people feel the same way.
Right.
So
there's a little bit of a clash there, as far as the Doctor not being as sentimental about his home that Peri
he doesn't
is
have
with
the
hers.
sentimentality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Jesse? Any thoughts on the Doctor's reaction to Peri being upset about what happened to Earth?
Yeah, I think it is much this well, why is this upsetting you? Like, he is has very unsympathetic, right? And this, it's almost that I'm thinking of Firefly when, the Doctor's trying to apologize to Nathan Fillion character. He's like, you're my crew. Why are we still talking about this? Like, I've told you, this is not your Earth. Yeah. Your Earth's fine. Why are we still discussing this? Why are you being so needy? And
so the Doctor's being so matter of fact.
Yes.
And
we can jump in the TARDIS, go back to your time anytime. It's okay. Why are you worried what's going to happen thousands of years in the future? So, he's very matter of fact.
Yeah, I think that, just my take on this was that the Doctor, realizing that this is Earth, he's all like, ooh, there's a mystery. And that's what he's focused on.
Yes.
And doesn't really care. Like, he can't process. He's so wrapped up and I got to find out how did Earth get shot across the universe and suddenly become known as Ravalox? And Peri's over there going it doesn't matter, really. It's just, this is my home, this is my world, and now it's gone. So I think it's just, different sets of priorities there. And again, I think a lack of, especially with this incarnation, there's that lack of empathy toward Peri. That he's so focused on the mystery that he's not focusing enough on how his companion feels about it. So,
yeah.
But that's I think it's just a symptom of this particular Doctor and this particular companion, that they tend to be, they obviously are two very different people, and obviously that comes through at times, and this is, I think, one of those times. All right. Anything else about the Sixth Doctor and Peri that anybody feels we need to cover? Okay.
I'm good.
All right. Rachel, you all right?
Yep.
Okay. Topic number 3. Let's move on then. Let's talk Sabalom, Glitz, and Dibber. And if you want, we could also throw in Queen Catricia into this segment, because they do share a lot of scenes with Catricia, and who's very eager to burn Glitz at the stake. So, Rachel, we'll start with you. We'll go with you this time. What are your thoughts on our favorite intergalactic con man that's not Captain Jack Harkness?
The two of them together are definitely some comic relief.
Right. If you threw in River Song, that would be amazing.
Yeah. Dibber is kind of forgettable.
Right.
Yeah,
He's
I'm kind of glad that
he's the henchman, right?
Yeah.
The sidekick.
I can see why they didn't necessarily bring him back.
Yeah.
When they bring Glitz back, because we're going to see Glitz again
Twice.
during this.
Yeah.
But Glitz is hilarious. Tony Selby just he took this role and just went with it. What's funny is he had done, I forget what he said he had done before this. And whatever the role was prior to this, he had to get really into shape for it. So when he got contacted to potentially do this Doctor Who story, they're like, "Can you put on 10 pounds? We need you a little pudgier for this."
Oh, that's hard.
Yeah. He's like, "Oh, yeah. So you're saying I should just eat whatever I want? Okay.
Give me a box of Twinkies. I'm good.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so no carrot juice for Glitz.
Yeah, no. Yeah, obviously Mel was not around at the time to make him exercise.
Yeah,
Husker biscuits and crisps.
Yes.
But you liked his introduction.
Yes, I do. He's a fun character, and I'm glad we get to see him again a couple of times. And Katrika, the Queen Katrika, Queen of the Free, is she's a fun character too. I guess if you're from the UK, a lot of people knew her already.
This was more kind of like John Nathan Turner's celebrity stunt casting.
Yeah, she was. She did. The series that I'm not familiar with, that a lot of people know her from, but actually I knew her best from, and what I was like, oh my God, I know that face and that voice, was the series As Time Goes By with Judi Dench. She plays the Judi Dench is eventually the guy that she marries. His father ends up remarrying this woman named Madge, and the two of them are just hilarious together. But yeah, she played Madge, so she essentially played Judi Dench's stepmother-in-law.
Oh, that had to be fun to watch.
That's what I knew her from. I was like, oh my God, it's Madge. So that cracks me up every time I watch it, because that's what I know her from.
So what did you make of Joan Sim as Katrika?
Katrika is just, it's fun to see a leader of some sort that's a woman. That's always exciting. And the fact that, she's when Peri gets captured, and she's like, I'll find you a couple husbands. And Peri's like, husbands is in plural. And she's like, oh yeah.
Such women as we must be shared. Yeah. She's perfectly willing to, share Peri around the tribe, I guess.
Yeah. And doesn't have any qualms about it. That's perfectly normal for their particular tribe. And, but yeah, she's a funny, the character could have been played way more, I think, serious. I mean, she is serious. I mean, when Glitz and Dibber show up and they're, wanting to destroy this.
But she does go a little over the top acting wise. Yeah.
But it's done in a way that it's just very entertaining, and it's just a shame that she kind of goes out the way she does.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
gruesome.
Yeah, she got
Actually,
she got kind of electrocuted there by Drathro.
yep.
Yeah. All right, Jesse, how about you? Any thoughts about Sabalom, Glitz, and Dibber?
The immortal
or
is dead.
Yeah.
The immortal is dead. First off, I did not. I thought we had seen this character before because in a timey-wimey fashion,
Mm-hmm.
we've seen his future.
Well, you never know where the TARDIS is going to end up. So
Exactly.
on this show, so
And so I believe at the time I had mentioned he's very Harry Muddish,
mm-hmm.
and that was very much this again.
That's a great comparison. I would add Quark from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. He's very much like Quark, I think.
Yeah, and a little bit with the interaction with him and his partner, just a tad of Jasper and Horace in the cartoon 1001 Dalmatians.
Now there's a reference.
Yes!
Wow.
Right?
I'm sure Rachel will appreciate it because I know she's big on Disney,
We just
right?
covered 101 Dalmatians on the podcast. I totally did not make that connection, but now that you said it, yes. Oh my goodness, yes.
Just a touch of that
Yes.
in there. And he thinks he's smarter than he is, and his companion is like, well, maybe you aren't that smart. I thought they were a fun kind of this duo that made it pretty, because often I can go, okay, when are we going to get these storylines together? But watching them go back and forth was pretty fun to watch. And I did. I reminded Jasper and Horace in the 1001 Dalmatians. So
you like Glitz and Dibber's banter as well?
Yes, I did. I liked them a lot. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. Yeah. As much as I'm a little disappointed by this script by Robert Holmes, considering his other work on Doctor Who, I try to keep in perspective, well, he was ill, but I did kind of like the exchanges between Glitz and Dibber. I thought those were handled pretty well. And Tony and Selby especially really sells those lines. He does a really good job with that. And I think because Glitz is, for being as conniving and underhanded as he is, he's very likable, which is why they brought him back twice, because he's probably one of the better things to come out of the story, in my opinion.
I think so. And you wonder if Robert Holmes was not given a clear direction. What do we want to do? So there, and you're right with him being ill. Mm-hmm. I was a little surprised when I saw written by, I'm like, oh, okay, that's good. And then
because Robert Holmes is generally considered to be one of classic Doctor Who's finest writers, if not the finest writer.
Absolutely.
So,
yes, absolutely.
So this, this script, I don't think is really up to his previous standards. But again, you have to take in consideration that he was ill and near his end, as it sadly turned out. So I will allow that, needless to say, obviously. I really dig Tony Selby. I think he's just a lot of fun. Dibber, I like Dibber for this story. I'm glad they didn't bring Dibber back, but I think for this story it was fun because, for one thing, it helped us get introduced to Glitz more. We kind of got a better feel than I think we would have had Glitz been solo in this one. And, Queen Patricia, I do feel that she was kind of like Joan Sims was really overacting a lot of times, but she suited the part, I think, that needed to be. She got to call Glitz fat at one point, which I thought was kind of funny. Fat one. It's like, no, it's Fatone. but there were some comedic moments, and I thought it was good. Although, I did get a little frustrated because I kind of get frustrated with these primitive tribes on Doctor Who that, they you have other characters trying to explain all this sciencey, Y&C technological stuff going on, like the black light converter that this tribe used as a totem pole, and Patricia's not having it. She's just like, I must consult the flames about things, and it's like, really, we've regressed to that level, I guess. But okay, That's what happens after your planet gets consumed by a giant fireball and
Yeah, start over.
slingshot it across the universe there. All right. So anything else about these characters? All right. Fourth and final topic this time. Let's talk our big bad Drathro stumbling around the set, and let's talk Murdine and Balazar. Murdine being the Drathro's kind of number one guy, and Balazar, who's just kind of like this everyday schlub that kind of gets brought into, the Doctor's events as he's going through all the tunnels, and eventually gets recruited by Murdine to leave his kind of slavish existence. So, Jesse, we'll start with you. What did you make of Drathro as a big bad? And what did you make of characters like Murdine, who is acting as Drathro's right-hand guy, but turns out on the side, he's actually trying to help people escape to the surface?
Yeah, I thought that was a nice twist. The robots kind of are like kind of Daleks without all the let's take all the accessories off a Dalek and smooth it down, and now we have a brand new robot. That was my first thought. It's like, look at that Dalek wannabe. I love the idea that and I think in a different during a different era, the story of I'm the right-hand man of the dictator, but at the same time I'm working to try to save people as much as I can. Yeah. And the idea of that, how much evil do I have to do, and the good that I'm doing on top of that is an interesting dynamic. And it's explored a little bit here, not as much as it could have been, but I liked that dynamic. I also liked the
so you like Murdine as a character?
I did, and I thought it was an interesting twist that he's trying to do that. I also who are the two blonde head
essentially Drathro's assistants, because they're just like gibbering back and forth to one another.
Yes. Yeah, and the idea, like, they were raised just to always believe in the immortal and to do everything it is, and I also the whole.
But they wouldn't shut up. I kept waiting for Drathro to just kill these guys, and it never happened.
And it's the whole idea of my programming. It's the typical. I can't get past my programming. My programming is I'm supposed to save these. Doesn't matter if circumstances have changed.
Does not compute.
Does not compute. And so it was an interesting looking, with the big V. I was like, okay, where is the camera that, this computer would see things? And,
that kind of like convex, head. Where it's all kind of like a looks kind of like an ice cream scoop, perched on the top of the robot. Yeah. But it was a very interesting design. You're kind of wondering, like, okay, how did he see? Because as far as I could tell, it just looked like a metal head that was just solid metal. But
yes, I had the exact same thought.
But and then there was Balazar, who, like I said, is essentially this guy who, keeps going, like, calling the Doctor Old One, which really pisses him off, and
keeper of the sacred text.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, including the important text of like the flight of whatever bird, whatever, by the HMS Stationary Office.
The UK habitats of the Canadian goose.
That's it. Yes, thank you.
What made me think of is
Moby Dick. Yes.
Rigel on Farscape. There's always a sacred text.
Good,
so I thought of that line.
Good reference.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, Rachel, how about you? What did you make of our big bad robot and Murdine and Balazar?
It's just, he's another killer megalomaniac robot.
Right.
I mean, he's supposedly following his protocol or whatever, but it's like Wally gone wrong. Where circumstances have changed, and he's not adapted, even though this robot's able to carry on a conversation with someone, so there has to be some sort of artificial intelligence involved for it to be able to make decisions and carry on a conversation. So you would think that logically, as circumstances change, it could also adapt its protocols, but
maybe the protocols override before he can make those changes.
Maybe, but and if he did, then we wouldn't have a story. So
right.
It's just one of those because story things.
It's Doctor Who. Roll with it. Yeah.
Yeah, really. And at the end of the day, it's another killer robot on Doctor Who. And it's not a Dalek. It's not that intimidating, other than the fact that apparently he can electrocute you.
Yeah.
But
he wasn't overly bloodthirsty. He just kind of like, I've got to do my thing, and I want to survive, and I need the black light to function. So that's got to happen. And you better, you assistant guys, you better make that happen.
Yeah.
So that when the doctor gets brought in, they're like, Jethro like puts him to work and says, okay, I need you to work on this. And the doctor's like, well, that's not really my field. I don't care. Do it.
Yeah. Do the thing. Push the buttons.
Yes.
I don't have thumbs.
Yes. Make spaceship go.
Yes.
You like the Pac-Lins on Star Trek Next Generation. But I like the fact that apparently Jethro got checkmated by Glitz and Dibber at the end of this episode, where they're like, well, hey, we have black light on our spaceship. You could just hitch a ride with us. Yeah. So he's like, you sure? Okay, I'll go with you guys. And so he goes with them, and then that black light system goes down, and then he just goes, he just runs out of juice and powers down. Yeah. And that's basically the end of Jethro. So, but I thought it was funny. It's like, okay, this big bad of the story just gets outsmarted by these like con men guys.
Yeah.
These wannabe mercenaries.
Yeah. Which just goes to show they're not necessarily as dumb as you may have thought.
No.
Or at least Glitz isn't.
Yeah.
So.
Did you like Murdine as a character?
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of, kind of like Dibber.
Yeah.
Where, if you're like, this character, like, oh yeah, he was in that story. The twist where, he is working against, the immortal, was a nice, way to come back from one of the cliffhangers, because it's like it leaves the episode that's part of the story on a cliffhanger.
I think it was like part 3 or whatever.
You!
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's that cliffhanger. You're right. That he's got the gun pointed, and you think, oh, he's going to shoot the doctor.
Yeah.
Like, I'm hunting you, and then you find out, oh no, he was killing the guy that was going to rat on him to Jethro.
Yeah. Yeah, but the fact that like he's figured out that like the planet's not on fire anymore, but nobody else has. I know that the immortal is got some sort of probably propaganda or something to keep most everybody in line, but it's like really he's the only one that's figured out that after all this time that maybe the planet's not on fire anymore and it's safe to go up there.
Maybe everybody else that figured it out is already up on the surface.
Yeah. But nobody's bothered to like try to come back and be like, no, it's fine to go out there.
No, they're probably like, okay, I'm gone. I'm not coming back. I'm not going back there. You might put me back to work. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Sorry about your luck. I'm out.
Yeah.
Bye.
Peace out. I'm gone.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else about this story that we didn't cover?
It's
The only thing I can think of is like Murdine. Their uniforms I thought were pretty hilarious because those helmets, they all had like a glob of spray paint on their helmets for some weird reason. Like somebody just like quickly like, okay, we need to make these helmets not look like just regular helmets. So
Hear that, or
there you
somebody
go.
was spray painting the helmets, accidentally, lost control of the spray can for a moment, and they're like, "Oh crap!" And there's no
Now
way
we got to
to
do them
fix it.
all
Well,
now.
it's kind of a thing, so let's
Yeah.
just do that for all of them.
I just thought it was kind of funny. It's like, like I kind of wonder, it's like, oh, well, we don't have enough money to paint all the helmets, so just give them all a quick spritz, and that'll work. That'll work, right?
Yeah. They're like, how good would helmets that are that loose on the head, how effective would they be at protecting your noggin?
I don't know, because half these people, they look like they're just going to fall off if they bend over.
Yeah.
So just for fun, Charles, an alternate scenario is some flamboyant costume designer is like, shh, perfect.
Yes.
Go. And it's like, what are you doing? No, don't mess with my vision. It's perfect. It's like, this makes no sense.
No capes. Oh, wait, that's a
no
different
capes.
fashion designer.
Yes.
But yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, that it's art. Yes.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I can see.
All right. Well, if nobody else has anything else about this, let's move on to our favorite quotes of the story. So, Jesse, do you have any favorite quotes you want to share?
It feels like we've heard this one multiple times, but the doctor going, the situation is worse than you imagine. And Peri, it always is. It just feels like that could be almost any doctor and any companion. I just love that quote.
I'm sure that comes up a lot in the former companion support group that we talk about so frequently on this show.
That I want Charles to write. That's it. I want that script.
It's tempting.
I know, it's tempting.
Yeah, but you don't have any other quotes you want to share? Is that it?
No.
That's
I
all
know
right,
you guys have
Rachel, how about you? Do you have any favorite quotes you want to share?
When the Doctor and Peri first land on Ravalox, and they're talking about how, as far as the Doctor's concerned, this planet's been decimated by this giant fireball, and Peri's a student of botany, so she's talking about the plant life and everything, and then they decide to keep going exploring, and Peri asks, "Is there any intelligent life here?" And the Doctor's like, "Apart from me, you mean?"
Yes. Yeah, which is right up the Sixth Doctor. That's definitive Sixth Doctor right there, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep, it is.
All right. Do you have any other quotes?
Not necessarily from this one. There's some really good quotes coming up.
Okay. All right. That's good. We'll table that for later then. I also, I've got a couple of quotes that I liked. The Sixth Doctor, we talked about this a little bit, where he's trying to console Peri in his way. Saying, planets come and go, stars perish, matter disperses, coalesces, forms into other patterns, other worlds. Nothing can be eternal. So essentially that's how the Doctor views the destruction of the Earth. And then Sabalom, Glitz, and Dibber, I had to write about this, where Glitz, they're talking about Dibber being a sociopath. And Glitz is like, whereas yours is a simple case of sociopathy, Dibber, my malaise is much more complex. A deep-rooted maladjustment, my psychiatrist said, brought on by an infantile inability to come to terms with the more pertinent, concrete aspects of life. And Dibber replies, well, that sounds like more of an insult than a diagnosis, Mr. Glitz. And Glitz replies, you're right there, my lad. Mind you, I had just attempted to kill him. Oh, I hate prison psychiatrists, don't you? So I thought that was fun. And then Glitz and Dibber again, this is my last quote. Don't I look like a philanthropist? Dibber replies, well, how do I know? I've never seen one. Glitz says to that, a philanthropist, my son, is someone who gives away all their gratis out of the simple goodness of their hearts. And Dibber replies, ah, you mean they're stupid. Yeah, you probably do look like one then.
Lovely.
Burn. Yeah, that was good. All right, so what's everybody's ratings? This should be interesting. Rachel, since you're our special guest, why don't you give your rating first?
Oh my goodness. this is going to be kind of difficult to do this because there's kind of like the individual stories and then the overall trial of the Time Lord.
Well, just for the individual story.
Yeah.
Because we've got 4 of these to go through, though.
Yeah.
So why don't you just do just for the Mysterious Planet?
Yeah. Just for this one, it's pretty good. It's a good setup to the trial.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're going to see in the subsequent stories. It's not my favorite out of them, but it's a good start to the season and the trial of the Time Lord. So I would probably give this one a good 7.5 sacred books.
Okay, that's good. Jesse, how about you? What's your rating?
So I'm right there with her. I think it's a good start. As always, I enjoy it more after we talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's good.
I'm going to give it.
That means we did it right. Makes you want to watch
exactly.
Doctor Who, right?
Yes, I'm going to give it 7 out of 10. Gratefully accepted compliments.
Nice. Excellent. Well,
that was my quote, and I saved it so I could use it.
Oh,
for
excellent,
my...
excellent, excellent, excellently done. I was tempted to give this one a 6 for the 6th Doctor, but
nice.
But I will give this one a 7. So I'm going to give it 7 out of 10. Rubber stone deflecting umbrellas, because of all the rubber stones that they threw at the Doctor that bounced off the umbrella instead of just plowing right through the umbrella and really should have caused him to regenerate. I'm just saying.
Yes.
If those are real stones.
Yes.
And he's trying to act all smug in the courtroom, like, that was a clever trick with the umbrella, don't you think? And it's like, no, because if those were real stones, they would just plowed right through that umbrella like tissue paper.
Yeah.
But okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give so pretty.
Don't look at the paper mache.
Yeah. Pay no attention to the men behind the curtain. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, so if you're looking for a story that is similar to this from the modern era, we're going to reverse the polarity all the way to, that dreaded year of 2020 with Orphan 55, which we obviously talked not too long ago here on Next Stop Everywhere. This was the 3rd episode of Series 12 in 2020, written by Ed Heim. And in this one, the 13th Doctor, Graham, Ryan, and Yaz are taken to Tranquility Spa via transport cube for an all-inclusive stay and are welcomed by their customer host, Hyphen. As Ryan retrieves a snack from a vending machine, he gets infected by a hopper virus, and while recovering, he meets a fellow guest named Bella, and they start to flirt with one another. Meanwhile, physical breach occurs, and the guests are asked to assemble. The Doctor convinces Hyphen to give her the access to the quote-unquote linen cupboard, which is actually a security room with an armory, where they meet a guy named Kane. The Doctor becomes suspicious after learning that an ionic membrane is needed to protect a holiday spa. The creatures that broke into the spa, called dregs, start killing the other guests, and the transporter is disabled, so they can't escape easily. One of the remaining survivors, an elderly woman named Vilma, notices that her partner Benny has gone missing. It's revealed that the spa is what the Doctor refers to as a vacation, meaning a place that's designed to look like a vacation but is actually a fabricated environment, like a holodeck, essentially. The spa system, which attracts all the guests, shows Benny outside the spa, so the survivors go out to rescue him. And from the vehicle, the group sees the uninhabitable desolation on the orphan planet they're on, Orphan 55, hence the title. The vehicle gets caught in a dreg trap, and the dregs surround it, keeping Benny as a hostage. The group makes a run for a nearby service tunnel, but the dregs kill Hyphen, and Benny is shot by Kane, because Kane's the bad guy, right? In the tunnel, Bella reveals that she's Kane's daughter, whom Kane neglected in order to build the spa, and she wants to destroy the spa out of anger toward her mother. So needless to say, Bella's got some issues. After the Dr. Yaz and Graham discover a rusted Russian sign, they realize that Orphan 55 is actually Earth.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So this is our big connection to the mysterious planet, obviously. And it was devastated by global climate change and nuclear war in an unknown year. So this is essentially another story where the Earth ends up getting roasted. Vilma sacrifices herself to give the group more time to escape, while the Doctor learns that the dregs are mutated humans that survived the fallout. Kane stays behind to give the group more time as well, and as the dregs surround the spot to attack, the group fixes the transporter and safely evacuates, leaving Bella and Kane behind to fight off the dregs. Back in the TARDIS, the group despairs over Earth's future, where the Doctor tells them that while this timeline is only a possibility, she can't promise that it won't happen again unless humanity makes a positive change. The end. Or is it? ... Question mark. So if you're looking for something similar to Mysterious Planet, Orphan 55. That's what I recommend. All right.
Very well done.
Thank you. Listener feedback. So we have 3 emails this time. So that means somebody besides Holly and Dave Proctor, right? So
yes, it does.
So, Jesse, which one do you want to take? Holly or Dave?
Host choice.
Okay, all right.
I've read them both, and they're both really good, well done emails. So
okay.
You pick which one you want.
All right, how about I do Holly's, and then you do Dave's, and then I'll do the third one.
Sounds great.
Okay. So Holly Mack, by that wonderful Holly from Wisconsin, who, hey, we kind of know from the Five-ish Fangirls podcast, right?
Yes, we do.
Somebody a little familiar to Rachel, right?
Never heard of her.
Never heard of her. We have nothing but nice things to say about Holly. We love her.
Yes.
So Holly writes in about the Mysterious Planet saying, hey, all. Hey, Holly. This is my second time going through and watching the Trial of the Time Lord series. I have to say that so far it still holds up. That opening shot with the space jail / Gallifreyan courtroom almost gave me Black Hole vibes with the way the camera rotated and moved around it. Yeah, that special effect was probably like the best special effect ever in classic Doctor Who.
And one of the most expensive.
Right, exactly. They cost like £8,000 back then, which is apparently really big money. So, the Inquisitor, played by Linda Bellingham, was a terrific foil for both the Doctor and the Valeyard. If you want more of her character, the first seasons of Big Finish's Gallifrey Chronicles and the story Trial of the Valeyard are worth checking out. Hey, I recommended those. Sabalom Glitz, what to say about him? He's quite the character, a mix of Han Solo, Malcolm Reynolds, and insert whatever smuggler of choice. Okay, is it just me, or does the Immortal kind of look like a quasi-can opener on steroids?
Well done.
Accurate, as far as I'm concerned. Glitz trying to talk to Glitz trying to talk Patricia into that the totem that she and her people had was actually a bit of technological equipment and needs to be fixed was interesting to say the least. Balazar, you poor thing. You need to expand your book of knowledge reading. I'll give you Moby Dick and Water Babies, but the UK habitats of the Canadian goose, not sure how that one's going to help you on your planet, even if you call it UK habitat. The Doctor doesn't seem too surprised that the Valeyard wants to see the Doctor dead. How many Time Lords have wanted to take the Doctor out over the course of the years, right? Glitz telling Patricia that you've committed some pretty major crimes in 6 galaxies when she wants to sacrifice you to the fires isn't going to help your case much. Tandril and Humker, yeah, that's the names of those 2 assistant guys for Drathro, are certainly the pair. I can see why Drathro gets tired of them very quickly. Yes. Murdine helping Balazar to find the Doctor and get to the surface, I didn't see coming the first time I watched it. The Valeyard kind of pulling the strings of the courtroom scenes, but the Doctor's doing well trying to argue his points. Really surprised that Drathro hasn't taken out Tandril and Humker yet. Guess the adage, good help is so hard to find these days, still rings true, and you don't want to know how many times it wanted to autocorrect Drathro to Davros. That means you've got Davros in your spell check. Nice. So, the mysterious planet that the Doctor and Peri landed on is Earth. Very interesting. The Valeyard and the High Council are really pulling out the stops by censoring things to make sure the Doctor really doesn't get a fair shake in this portion of the trial. Nice nod to the brig with Glitz using the 5 rounds rapid line. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. When they are trying to break into where Drathro is. Yeah, that was a nice little reset from the Daemons. Check for the wings there, 5 rounds rapid. The ominous ending with the Valeyard saying that the Council will want the Doctor's life was played up slightly, but for the time that it aired, I'm sure it lent a lot to the drama that was to come. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin. Yay.
Thank you, Holly, as always. Love it.
We always love hearing from you, Holly. Thank you for writing in. So next we have Dave Proctor. So just here, read that one.
So Dave says, hello, friends. I hope all of you are healthy and staying sane lately.
Well, that's always dubious in my case.
Healthy, but sane, yes. This episode is not an example of the best of Doctor Who. If one loves old television sci-fi, and I do, one cannot help but to compare the big dogs in the yard. This group of story reminds me of Star Trek's The Cage / The Menagerie.
The Menagerie, yeah.
Yeah. The trial, the clips from other episodes that contain way too much information that the participants easily accept. In both instances, there was an effort to save money and use product that was already made in order to make a new product. These are redeeming features. One must love to see. There are redeeming features. One must love to see other Time Lords in life on Gallifrey. I know the show is about the Traveler, but this is something that I've always liked. I agree. It was interesting to see someone claiming immunity from prosecution based on being president. It's good. It's also good to see this tactic failed. It gives one hope.
Yep.
I see what you did there, Dave.
Yep. Agreed.
Peri, I thought, was a great companion that was underutilized. I feel like they didn't know how to write for her. She comes off as useless, but could be so much more. We agree with that. In fact, Charles made that very point.
Mm-hmm. That it did.
Jathro, the robot, seems extra thrown in. He is completely unbeatable until he's lured outside, and boom! The 2 clowns that work with him are just comedy relief. The black light converter is referred as the great totem to the earth god Haldrone. This shows very early this is Earth, and the inhabitants know that. The level of development on the surface is amazing. No injury can be seen to the landscape from the fire. Great big trees are seen everywhere. The clothing being worn looks manufactured, the shoes especially. This suggests industry, perhaps limited. The doctor says there are several hundred people. This is ill-fitting at best.
Maybe they have a Walmart somewhere. Who knows?
Yeah. Exactly. Glitz is a common man. Dibbler is just a lackey. Neither seem truly necessary, but somehow I feel like we will see at least one of them again.
Why, yes, we do. Twice, in fact.
Yes, I await your discussion of the Valeyard. I haven't understood him ever.
So we'll fix that.
I did like when Glitz said 5 rounds rapid should do it when he was going to break into the structure. The Brigadier is an all-time favorite. That's more than enough for me. Stay well. Thanks, Dave Proctor. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, I hope you and your family are well as well. So we want everybody healthy and happy. All right. So third, if you're kind of wondering who our third emailer is, mystery emailer, a man named Jeff Hilke wrote in. I hope I'm pronouncing that. Either it's Hilke or Hilke, Hilke. So apologies if I completely butchered your name, Jeff. But thank you so much for writing in. Hello, Charles and Jesse. Well, hi, Jeff. Love the podcast. Well, we love you for listening to the podcast, so it works out great.
Yes, we do. Yes.
Know it's a bit late, but just listened to your Revolution of the Daleks episode and had a thought. I don't look at it as the Doctor killing a TARDIS, but the TARDIS sacrificing itself to eliminate evil. Well, we didn't really get to the TARDIS's perspective, but it's an interesting theory.
I like it.
I'll give it to you. Let's hope anyway. I was wondering if each of you has a favorite pick for the 14th Doctor whenever he/she comes. My older Doctor pick would be Hugh Laurie, and younger Doctor pick would be John Boyega. Finn from Star Wars.
Oh, nice.
Stay safe and keep fighting the good fights. Well, thank you, Jeff. And thank you so much for writing in. So it's always great to hear, especially somebody new writing into the podcast.
Yes.
So thank you for listening and thanks for writing in. So Jesse or Rachel, any thoughts about who you want to see as the 14th Doctor, provided we do get that rumored, and I want to stress rumored, regeneration at the end of Series 13? Anybody? Anyone? Bueller?
Yeah. I don't know enough of the UK acting community because they've done pretty good job of picking people that I don't know, or at least not that well.
Right.
At least the last two go rounds. So although, Peter Capaldi had been it before, but I could, I'm terrible with faces and names, and I did not recognize him right off the bat when they announced him.
Right.
And, Jodie, she, even though people were thinking maybe they may go female this time around, apparently she was not on anybody's list. That there were lots of other women above her. I don't know.
I mean, they'll probably go with an unknown, a relative unknown, like they usually do. Except for Peter Capaldi, he was pretty well known.
Yeah.
But what about you, Jesse? Any thoughts?
No, I mean, I think if we get that announcement, I'm sure we'll do an episode where we did last time, where we picked our 3 or 4 top picks and things we'll do, and we'll do a little more research. I mean, I think both his selections are great, and I think it would be fun. I know that Helen Mirren said that she would love to be the Doctor for just one season, and I just,
she wants to pull an Eccleston, essentially.
Yeah, she just, and I still say, hey, BBC, do a couple of movies with her doing that as the Doctor. That would be amazing. I don't know. There's a lot to talk about. Will they try to do a person of color to continually push to the boundaries? Will they try to go back and do a young, handsome white guy to try to bring back some of the, to make the audience feel a little more safe? I think there's a lot of debate on, unfortunately, it's not
let's put it this way. You mean the racists feel safe because, that most people would feel safe no matter who is the Doctor.
Absolutely. But that's the idea is, are they going to cater to a very small, loud,
minority
community? Yeah, minority. So I stand by what you and I have always said. Find the best actor or actress. An actor is normally gender neutral that can do the show, and then book them. Yeah. Because we just want a good. We want someone who can take on the role and do it justice the way that Matt did, and David did, and Chris did, and Colin and Peter, and I mean all of it. Each actor has brought something new to the role, and so I'm excited whoever it's going to be.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking I'm just speculating here. I'm guessing they will probably go back to a male Doctor, but I'm kind of thinking they're going to go with a person of color.
Okay.
As well. That's my theory. Yeah. So if that is the case, I would go with Richard Ayoade from the IT Crowd.
Ah, interesting.
So if you've ever seen him, you probably can guess why. But I think he would do good in the role.
Okay.
But again, that's just a random pick off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So okay. Well,
good.
If anybody else has any speculation about who they'd like to see as the Doctor, or if you want to write in about the episode we're talking about, or you just want to say hi because, well, hey, we miss you guys, write into us at nextstopeverywheresmg@gmail.com. That's nextstopeverywheresmg for Southgate Media Group at gmail.com, or you can find us on Twitter at nextstopsmg on Twitter. Facebook, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, or Instagram at Next Stop Everywhere podcast. And Rachel, where can they find you in addition? Well, hey, I'm guessing they could probably find you on a certain Five-ish Fangirls podcast and Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. You can find me with the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. We are a weekly fandom, nerd culture, entertainment podcast. We talk about books, movies, video games, comic books, all things geeky and nerdy from the female perspective. You can find us pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts, all the major platforms, and anywhere that uses an RSS feed. You can find us at the5ishfangirls.com. There you can find links to all of our other social medias, ways you can financially support us, our book club, that sort of thing. And there is an About Us page on there with all of our individual bios and links to our personal social media platforms if you wish to follow us as individuals and not just the Five-ish Fangirls. And then, of course, Gold Standard, which I do with DJ Nick and Zan. And we are bi-weekly, and we are chronologically going through every single movie that has won the Academy Award for Best Picture, starting in 1927 with Wings, working our way through the years until we get to whatever's the most recent Oscar winner when we reach that point in time several years from now. So at the moment it's Parasite, but by the time we reach that far, we may have a couple more Academy Award winners in the record books. And we're mostly on Facebook. So just look for Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast, and of course, pretty much everywhere you can get podcasts.
Excellent. And I want to thank Rachel publicly because she was kind enough to invite yours truly and DJ Nick over to travel all the way from Man's World all the way to Themyscira to talk Wonder Woman on the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. So that was my first time on the podcast. I had a really great time, and just want to thank you publicly, Rachel, for inviting me. And hopefully I haven't put you off enough that I can make a return at some point. You'll let me back on.
You will definitely be back.
Excellent. All right.
We'll find some reason to have Jesse on too.
Yay.
I would love that.
Excellent. All right. So Jesse, how about you? Where can they reach you?
So you can find me on Twitter at Jesse Jackson DFW. You can hear Charles and I and the aforementioned DJ Nick on the Phantom Zone podcast. We are going through WandaVision, and we are having so much fun. It is taking us an hour and a half to discuss a 28-minute episode, but we are having so much fun. If you are not watching this series, please go check it out and then come back and catch up listening to our episodes. We are having a blast. Then speaking of Womanland, I on Set Listing Bruce, the Bruce Springsteen podcast.
There's a Womanland? Where is it?
There is a episode that will be released on tomorrow as we're recording this. Yeah. So that is February 4th, where Wendy Hembrock from Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV gave her Rock and Roll Mount Rushmore, and it's all female artists. Excellent. And she had recorded that back in March of 2020 for when I was trying to do Patreon-only episodes, which kind of did not work out because I kept I want everyone to hear these episodes. Yeah. So that's one of them. I'm releasing that one since it's been almost a year, and it's going to be fun. And then next week...
Was Debbie Harry on the list? I have to know.
I will have to. I do not remember who she picked.
She better be on the list because I love Debbie Harry. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And Blondie.
I will tell you a funny Deborah Harry and Penn Jillette story later.
Oh, cool. So, all right. We'll table that to off air.
And and next week on Set Listing Bruce is Mayor Week. I have the former mayor of Minneapolis, and the former mayor of St. Paul on the show. One on Tuesday, one on Thursday, talking about their Springsteen fandom. Okay. So you've got both Twin Cities.
I do have both Twin Cities.
Yes, right. I do. So besides the Phantom Zone and this fine podcast, what else can we hear you from, Charles?
Well, let's see. You can, if you want to reach me, and I hope you do, reach me out on Twitter at Charles Skaggs on the Twitter machine, or at Charles Skaggs on Instagram. Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio. and my bloggy geeky things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Next Stop Everywhere. So Doctor Who, Torchwood, The Sarah Jane Adventures, Big Finish Audios, and more. All kinds of comic book sci-fi news of my other podcasts for the Southgate Media Group, including, well, hey, the aforementioned Phantom Zone podcast that I do with Jesse and DJ Nick, where, like he said, we're talking WandaVision, having a blast with that, and currently feeling a little bit smug since our predictions of what's been up with what's really behind the mysterious goings-on proved true. So with episode 4, so hope everybody tunes in. We've got even more theories to share and lots of more episodes to cover. So why not join us over there on the Phantom Zone podcast when you're not listening to us here on Next Stop Everywhere or of any of these other great podcasts. Or you can find me also on Titan Talk the Titans podcast, which is on hiatus, but we talk Titans and Doom Patrol with DJ Nick and Jesse Jackson. Hopefully it won't be too long before we get new episodes on HBO Max with that. Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast that do with Zan Sprouse, where we talk all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch, and we recently finished Wild at Heart, the David Lynch film, and soon we'll be talking Lost Highway, the 1997 David Lynch film, which should prove very, very interesting, especially considering it features a notorious actor by the name of Robert Blake. Maybe you've heard of him. The former Beretta? Yeah, so we'll see what happens when we talk about that. And also it's got Robert Loggia, lots of other great actors in that one. And then last but certainly not least, Drunk Cinema, where Zan Sprouse and I, in addition to doing Ghost with, this is kind of like our side gig where we talk adult conversation, we talk adult beverages, and we sit back and enjoy and watch some movies together. And we recently did The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension, which was a lot of fun. And then coming up in our next episode, our 5th episode, we're going to be discussing, as a kind of a tribute now to the late Cloris Leachman, we're going to be discussing the 1974 film Young Frankenstein, a.k.a. Young Frankenstein.
Frankenstein!
Yeah, as we pay a little tribute to the late, great Frau Blücher. So I hope everybody tunes in. I know that's certainly one of my favorite movies. I know it's one of Zan's, and hopefully it's one of yours. So you want to watch that movie right along with us as we do our little beverage-assisted commentary, shall we say. All right, everybody, hope you had fun listening to our first part of the Trial of the Time Lord. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you had a good time.
I did. Like I said, anytime I could talk to Sixth Doctor, I am there with very garishly colored bells on.
Very nice.
Well, that's a good thing considering we have 3 more stories in the Trial of the Time Lord to talk about, right?
Yeah. I mean, how many people can you be like, hey, who wants to talk to Sixth Doctor? And you've got somebody going, oh, me. You know.
Yes, we're excited.
So you're that diamond in the rough. So
Yes.
we definitely want to hold on to you. You're a special treasure in that regard.
Absolutely.
All right. So next time on Next Stop Everywhere, episode 218, as Let's Do the Mind Warp Again. So we're going to talk Mind Warp, the second part of the Trial of the Time Lord. So that's parts 5 through 8 for those of you keeping score at home. And Rachel is going to be joining us once again to discuss that story. Maybe you've heard of her, Rachel Frend from the Fangirls podcast and Gold Standard of the Oscars podcast. But this is a big one because not only do we get the return of Syl from Vengeance on Varos, we're also getting to say goodbye to Perpigillium Peri Brown, who meets a potentially dubious end. And I'll just leave it there for those who haven't seen the story yet. So, but it's definitely something you might want to check out. Oh, and hey, Brian Blessed, as in King Voltan from Flash Gordon, is in this. For Room Nick.
Yay.
All right. So that's definitely worth watching, right?
Absolutely.
So, Rachel, thank you again. Jesse, thank you as always. Any final thoughts you want to share before we sign off?
Just say thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Charles. This is a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to next week.
All right. So, again, everybody, thanks again. Come on back, episode 218, Mind Warp, with Rachel Frend, Jesse, and yours truly, right here on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Goodbye, everybody.